Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
I'm always in pursuit of different voices, new voices on the programme, particularly with regard to the hardy perennial that is Brexit. We've probably dedicated more hours to talking about Brexit than anybody else. Certainly a hell of a lot more than David Davis did with his 4 hours of meetings with Michel Barnier while allegedly being Secretary of State for leaving the European Union. But occasionally we stumble across something that is genuinely fascinating. There is a young filmmaker called Ewan Robinson who got in touch with Nick Clegg's office to pitch the idea of making a series of films about Brexit. They're not about facts or backstops or tariffs or stats, but they're about the very human emotion of thinking twice. You know that the slogan of this programme, on the days when I can remember to remind you, is that there's no point having a mind if you never change it. And that very common and controversial description of people who are incapable of changing their minds has popped up on the programme repeatedly today. And I find it fascinating. You know I do. There are days when I launch a topic with you and I say, I only want to talk to you if you've changed your mind about who you're going to vote for or about what you think of an individual in the public eye, a politician. If you've changed your mind, it's so interesting. Transformation is the most interesting thing I think we can do with our views and opinions, which is why I presume Nick Clegg was so taken with Ewan Robinson's idea. So he's now cracked on and made a few short films, the best of which, in our humble, involves Richard Pendry, who's in the studio with me now. Richard is a risk consultant, which means he's employed to go into incredibly dangerous places like Afghanistan and Iraq. He voted for Brexit, but what I'll do is I'll play you the footage of the film, the audio footage of the film, and then I'll introduce you to Richard. So stay where you are and listen to this.
I love this country. I think it's an amazing country. It really, really is. I'm from a town called Merthyr Tydfil, which is in the South Wales Valleys. Leaving school, I had no qualifications. And I had the chance to join the army. And I liked to scrap. So I wanted to get in with the parachute regiment. We have Canadian, we have German. I don't like politicians. I have to be honest with you. My vote for Brexit was a protest vote. What I do now is keeping people safe. Normally it's high threat environments such as Iraq, Afghanistan, understanding what is going on around you, what the threats are. When you plan for something, you go on the information that you've got. And let's say I'm planning a mission in Afghanistan. I would get all the information I can and I'd make my informed decision. It is becoming more and more clear that we are making decisions on things that we don't really fully understand. I mean, it would be a logical conclusion in my type of work. If we don't have the information, we can't assess the risk properly. And if you're not happy, you don't do it. That's sensible. Okay. I would say that there is justification with the relevant information on the table for there to be a second vote. It's okay to change your mind, and you're not selling out people. You're just making a decision for yourself and from those nearest and dearest to you, the benefit of the country. I put on the uniform. I picked up the gun. I've stood my watch. My grandson is 1 year old now, and I want to make sure that the opportunities are there for him.
And that is why you will be marching alongside thousands of others for what you describe as our future on Saturday, the 20th of October. And you add, Richard, I hope others will join me. Let's begin at the beginning, if we may. Well, what do you mean when you say it was a protest vote?
I found that the whole experience leading up to the Brexit vote was toxic. And the politicians, to my mind, but they were just making things up. I understand totally that Brexit has never happened before. And yet, what I've always been taught, that if you don't know the answer to something, then you say so. You don't make things up. And there was this toxic atmosphere that was just swirling around the whole Brexit campaign. And I voted to come out. And I think it was a protest vote against the politicians.
Yes.
It really was.
A lot of people, I think, did that as well, but with a sense that you weren't going to win. A lot of people have told me over the years.
I never thought... I went to bed... I had the full thing of waiting up all night to watch it. I went to bed and my wife got up in the morning and she screamed and she said, you need to come and look at this. And I was like... Oh my God!
Oh,
yeah,
oops.
yeah. What have we done?
Because if it was close, but went the other way, your thinking was perhaps these people in Westminster will start listening more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
to those of us outside the bubble, as it were. But it didn't go that way.
It didn't go that way.
So when did you start repenting?
I started repenting a few months into it, when again the sort of lack of information and the assumptions were being swirling around. And it just didn't sit well with me. It really, really didn't. And looking at
stuff that they'd said in the campaign was clearly not going to happen. That was the first alarm bell.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay. I
okay.
mean, the thing is, some of the comments that were made by the Treasurer at the time, I can't remember his name.
Chancellor.
The
Chancellor.
The Chancellor of the Exchequer. His comments, they just didn't happen.
No.
He then disappeared off the scene, as did David Cameron. And it just didn't sit well with me. It really didn't.
So you started analysing risk.
Yes.
How does that work?
Well, risk management is not an exact science. However, we have many processes that allow you, that if you apply them, that allow you to reduce the risk.
Right.
And I'm looking at the information that is being given by the politicians, and I can't really see. I can't see where they're coming from when they're making these things, when they're actually saying these things. I can't understand where they're getting their information from, because to me, I can't see it.
Yes.
Unless they see something that I can't see, I don't understand where they get their information.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah.
Have you come up with any answers? Because you presume there must be a basis for it.
When you listen to the politicians and Brexit is, I understand with people that as soon as this Brexit title comes on, they just want to switch off because they've been bombarded with it. But when you listen to politicians being interviewed, it's all think. It's assumptions.
Believe.
But they fill in gaps in with things that they're not factual. My world evolves around facts. I have to be able to analyse the context and present that information in a way that the senior management that I deal with have the ability to make informed decisions.
Right.
I don't see this process.
And you might sometimes be wrong. Because this is another element of the rhetoric, which is saying, well, look, that economic forecast there from the Bank of England wasn't 100% correct 10 years ago, so we should never listen to anything they ever say again.
No, we're adjusting it as we go along.
Precisely.
It's the dynamic risk assessment. So what is okay today, what you can do today in Afghanistan or Iraq or Somalia or whatever can change tomorrow. It can even change in the afternoon, because you have to take into consideration actions from insurgents and things like this.
When the facts change,
when the facts change, you have to do another dynamic risk assessment.
Why would a second vote, though, be a good idea? Because I think you're right. A lot of people will groan at the very prospect of it. Where does your sense of urgency or importance come from?
Well, let's look at the political parties.
Do we have to?
Well, yeah, because, the thing is, this is all the process leading up to my rationale behind the second vote.
Fair enough.
You've got Labour and Jeremy Corbyn. To me, they seem like rabbits caught in the headlights. They startled, they don't know where to turn, and I think that they're even frightened to making a decision on anything because it will upset people.
Because of who it will disappoint.
Yeah.
Yes, so you can keep all of the people happy all of the time as long as you do nothing.
Exactly. So if you do nothing, then, right. Then you have the Conservative Party, who are content on ripping the party apart. And I honestly think that they don't instill confidence in me to be able to think that they are doing the best job for this country with their what seems to be political ambitions with David Davis and Boris Johnson and all these guys. They seem to have a political agenda over...
Or a personal agenda.
Sort of a personal agenda, because they're thinking about their next promotion, etc., etc.
Yes.
And they're taking that over...
But they still will if there's another vote. This is what, what do you think a vote will change?
Well, I'm hoping that the people, the 60-odd million people in this country will have the ability to vote on facts that are presented to them.
Right, so it's almost as if we've had a look. We took a vote on whether or not to jump out of a window, and now we've had a look out of the window. We should think again, because
Absolutely.
lots of people told us there were feather beds down there, or whopping great trampolines,
Absolutely.
or a lovely swimming pool, and there's a waterfall, and there's ladders. Now we've had a look, and we can't see any of that, so we'd like to change our mind about jumping out the window.
I don't feel comfortable with those guys, the Conservative Party at the moment, with the shambles that they are in internally, making the right decisions for this country.
And you don't feel much faith that the Labour Party will either. So the population...
the Labour Party they're not stepping up to the plate.
What about the argument that, you keep doing it until you get the result that you want? I mean, as a former para, you're unlikely to encounter quite as much vitriol as I do as a sort of lily-livered radio presenter. But there's a lot of hatred out there, a lot of anger, a lot of suggestions that, you're a Ramona, you might have changed your mind. It sounds to me like you've lost your bottle. Why don't you? What are we going to do? Carry on having referendums until you get the result that you want?
I think the decision is so big that it can't be left to a Conservative Party that's ripping itself apart. This is the biggest thing that we've done.
And that is your risk consultancy kicking in.
Absolutely.
You're just looking at the scenario and saying, we would not get into bed with these people at this point in our history.
And I'm not a politician.
No,
I don't like politicians.
Should be. Would you fancy it? We might give it a whirl. Are you enjoying this? Are you enjoying this? Because you seem to be. You've got a spring in your step. You've got a glint in your eye.
The thing is, I'm a passionate person.
Clearly.
I'm a passionate person.
Martha Tidfield.
Running
through your veins.
It's South Wales valleys and all
Absolutely.
that. Yeah. But I'm not one to suffer fools gladly. And if I can help, then I'll stand up and I'll give my little bit.
I'm glad you've done this, and I shall share more details on how people can find out more about what you're doing. Are you speaking on Saturday? Are you going to get up on the podium?
If they want me to speak, I'm quite happy to.
You should do, because I think you take people with you that perhaps others couldn't. Here's a good example from Dominic. Mayor Maximar Culpa, for the same reasons as Richard, I wanted to give a bloody nose to the government and never believed we could win. I also persuaded my mum to vote for Brexit. Even the Pope can't let me off this one. For me, only a second vote can save me. It's 12:01.